Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. I am Dr. Sayyid Salman Shafkat with you. Before the start of this lecture, I would like to say to you that whenever I uh, take your class on Google Classroom, so it is advised to you to play your own video on your laptop or your cell phone, and you keep on watching from the lecture from the screen shared by me. So the voice or sound uh, from the video played on my laptop is not enough sufficient for all the students to listen, because this is not my voice, that is actually the voice that has been recorded in this video. So, so it will not be easy for you to listen the sound from the video played by me. So for better understanding of your lecture, you are requested to play on your own videos and listen from your own video and watch from here. And one thing more, that while interrupting the lecture, you should take a picture or screenshot of the point that you want to discuss with me. And during the lecture, you can ask me in the WhatsApp group that have been created for your class. This is lecture number 12, and the key points for this lecture are magnetic susceptibilities, that is magnetic susceptibility per volume, per gram, and molar susceptibility. Then we shall talk about magnetic permeability, that is a ratio between magnetization of a substance versus over applied magnetic field. Then we shall talk about relationship between magnetic susceptibilities, that magnetic susceptibility per volume, per gram, and molar magnetic susceptibility. And then we shall talk about the applications of magnetic susceptibility. And as usual, at the end of this lecture, there are few questions from the lecture that will help you to assess yourself that what you have learned from this lecture. Distinguish between the magnetic susceptibilities, that is magnetic susceptibility per volume, magnetic susceptibility per G, per gram, and molar magnetic susceptibility. It is important to distinguish between the magnetic susceptibilities. Volume susceptibility, that is represented by psi V, is dimensionless. Gram susceptibility, that is psi G is equal to psi V over P, where P is density of sample and unit of psi G are meter per kilogram or centimeter per kilogram. Molar susceptibility, that is obtained by multiplying gram susceptibility with molar mass of a compound. It has SI units, meter cube per mole or centimeter cube per mole or EMU. So you must keep in mind their units and their relationships. In MCQs, you might be asked that which one of the following magnetic susceptibility is dimensionless, and the option may be psi V, psi G, and psi M, or all of these. So if you are aware, then you can choose the option with psi V. Magnetic susceptibility. Just as in diatomic molecules, the magnetic susceptibility of a coordination compound can provide indirect evidence of orbital energy level. Hund's rule requires maximum number of unpaired electrons in the energy level with equal or nearly equal energies. Diamagnetic compounds will have all electrons paired or slightly repelled by a magnetic field. When there are unpaired electrons, the compound is paramagnetic and is attracted into a magnetic field. The measure of this magnetization is called as magnetic susceptibility. Magnetic properties are measured in terms of magnetic moments. But for various substances, moment cannot be measured directly. So we can find first magnetic susceptibility and then it is converted into magnetic moment. So chemically, useful information can be obtained by proper interpretation of the measured values of magnetic moments. Magnetic moment cannot be measured directly, but first find the magnetic susceptibility of a substance. Then it is possible to calculate the magnetic moment of paramagnetic atom or ion. Useful information: ligand nature, particular metals oxidation state, then complex nature, paired or unpaired electrons are present in that complex, then definition of magnetic susceptibility. Magnetic susceptibility is a measure of capacity of a substance to take up magnetization in the presence of applied magnetic field. Greater the magnetization of a substance, greater will be the magnetic susceptibility. When a substance is placed in magnetic field of strength H, the magnetic flux density, that is electromagnetic lines of force in a region within a substance, is given by B is equal to H plus 4 pi I, or I can be written as M. So in some previous lecture I told you that in some literature magnetization of a substance is represented by I, and in some books this factor is represented by capital M. So in this equation, capital I or M is the intensity of magnetization. Dividing both sides of the above equation by applied magnetic field, B over H naught will be equal to H over H plus 4 pi I over H. So as we know that H over H will be equal to 1 plus 4 pi M over H naught is equal to 4 pi CV. B over B over H is equal to B over H naught. So in some books, applied magnetic field is represented by H naught, and in some books, applied magnetic field is H. That's why I have mentioned both of these two notations. The ratio of intensity of magnetization of applied magnetic field, sorry, ratio of intensity of magnetization of material and applied magnetic field is represented by capital P, and it is known as magnetic permeability, or means how much substance is allowed to be magnetized in this particular applied magnetic field. And intensity of magnetization over applied magnetic field is known as magnetic susceptibility per unit volume or volume susceptibility. So we can say that magnetic susceptibility is actually a ratio, and we know from our high school that usually ratios don't have any unit. That's why at the start of this lecture I mentioned that volume susceptibility is usually dimensionless. Mathematically, the previous equation becomes P is equal to 1 plus 4 pi psi v. The permeability B over H is just the ratio of intensity of lines of force, that is magnetic field, within the substance to the density of such lines. Magnetic lines of force are greater if paramagnetic substances are present. This region has own magnetic field, and if magnetic paramagnetic, then increase in the density of magnetic lines of force. Because paramagnetic materials tend to align themselves in the direction of magnetic lines of force, and magnetic lines of force will be converged towards the material. The region have its own magnetic flux, and if paramagnetic, then density of magnetic lines of force will be increased. In case of diamagnetic substances, the magnetic lines of force are less. If the substance is diamagnetic, then the density of lines of force will be decreased. The reason behind this decrease in magnetic flux is that diamagnetic materials are usually repelled by applied magnetic field, and magnetic lines of force will go away from the area where diamagnetic material is placed. Magnetic permeability, that is ratio of intensity of magnetization over applied magnetic field in vacuum, and volume susceptibility, that is intensity of magnetization of a material over applied magnetic field. Thus the volume susceptibility of a vacuum is given by definition B0, since in vacuum B over H must be equal to 1. Susceptibility of diamagnetic substances is negative because lines of force due to induced dipole is cancelled out, not all cancelled out, but some lines of force due to applied magnetic field. And you can see at the bottom of this slide that B over H is equal to 1 plus 4 pi psi v. B over H will be equal to 1 plus 4 pi 0, means when there is no any substance, then the ratio of B over H will be equal to 1. Because the direction of magnetic flux or magnetic lines of force due to diamagnetic substance opposite, so they cancel out, so I over H value will be negative. Susceptibility of paramagnetic substances is positive because the flux is greater within the substance than it would be in the absence of any material. All experimental methods depend on magnetic susceptibility because it is necessary for magnetic moment. A number of methods are available for measuring magnetic susceptibilities, and all depend on measuring the force exerting on a body when it is placed in inhomogeneous magnetic field. The more paramagnetic the body, more strongly it will be drawn towards more intense part of magnetic field. In this slide, we can see a comparative analysis of passage of magnetic lines of force in the presence of different types of materials. The diagram A is showing that lines of force between magnetic regions, and in B we can see that if we place a paramagnetic material, then lines of force are converged towards the material, and almost all of the lines are passing through the material. Then again, the normal mean, when there is a diamagnetic substance, then these lines of force are becoming away from the substance, and material is experience less magnetic flux density as compared to blank. So the diamagnetic behavior can be clearly shown in the picture that is marked as E, where psi m is obtained from measure volume susceptibility. Reason: weight easily can be found for solids or liquids, but difficult to find volume of solids. So magnetic susceptibility can be corrected for diamagnetic contributions and temperature independent paramagnetic to give corrected molar susceptibility. As we have talked about in our previous studies, that diamagnetic susceptibility or diamagnetism is a universal phenomena. All type of materials, they show diamagnetic behavior because in almost all of the compounds there are paired number of electrons. The paramagnetism is shown by due to uh, unpaired electrons. So the presence of unpaired electron is less as compared to diamagnetic, as compared to paired compounds. So whenever we record magnetic susceptibility of a material, so the magnetic susceptibility measured by any instrument will be equal to magnetic susceptibility lessened by diamagnetic susceptibility. Relationship between magnetic susceptibility. It is more convenient to discuss magnetic susceptibility on weight basis than on volume basis by the relation psi v over d is equal to psi g. Psi v is volume susceptibility, that is a ratio of intensity of magnetization of a material over applied magnetic field. Density is represented by gram per decimeter cube, and psi g is gram susceptibility, psi a is atomic susceptibility, psi m is molar susceptibility or molecular susceptibility. Psi a and psi m are susceptibilities per gram atom or per gram mole. Psi a is equal to psi g into atomic weight, and psi m is equal to psi g into molecular weight. Now here I am going to introduce two new forms of susceptibility. One of them is tensor susceptibility and the other one is differential susceptibility. Previously, we have knowledge that when we place a paramagnetic material in an applied magnetic field, then magnetic moments of paramagnetic material align themselves in the direction of applied magnetic field, and they exhibit the phenomena of magnetization. But sometimes the production of magnetic field in the material is not in the same direction as applied magnetic field. Tensor susceptibility is actually susceptibility used for the materials whose magnetization is not in the direction of applied magnetic field. Magnetic susceptibility of most crystals is not a scalar quantity. Magnetic response, represented by capital M, is dependent upon the orientation of sample and can occur in directions other than that of applied magnetic field. In these cases, volume susceptibility is defined as Mi is equal to Hj In this equation, I and j refers to the direction, for example, in xy Cartesian coordinates of the applied magnetic field and magnetization respectively. The tensor in this rank second order dimension, describing the components of magnetization in ith direction from the external magnetic field in jth direction. So it means they have some linear or direct relation, but both of them are not in similar direction. That's why introduction of I and J is necessary to differentiate that magnetization of the material is not in the same direction as applied magnetic field. It means magnetization is increasing in ith direction and magnetic field is being applied in jth direction. Now we shall come towards the new terminology, that is differential susceptibility. Differential susceptibility is actually susceptibility related to ferromagnetic materials. In ferromagnetic materials, the relationship between magnetization and applied magnetic field is not linear. To accommodate this relationship, a more general definition of differential susceptibility is used. X dij is equal to differential of mi over differential of hj. In this equation, XD is a tensor derived from partial derivatives of components of M with respect to components of applied magnetic field. When the coercivity of the material parallel to an applied magnetic field is smaller of the two, the differential susceptibility is a function of applied magnetic field and self-interactions such as magnetic anisotropy. When the material is not saturated, the effect will be non-linear and dependent on the domain wall configuration of the material. Several experimental techniques allow for the measurement of the electronic properties of a material. An important effect in metals under strong magnetic field is the oscillation of differential susceptibility as function of I over H. This behavior is known as Haas-Van Alphen effect and relates the period of the susceptibility with the Fermi surface of the material. So I'm not going into much detail of these two terminologies, that is tensor susceptibility and differential susceptibility, because it needs a complete lecture to elaborate and explain these two terminologies in I and J, and differential of magnetic field and differential of applied magnetic field. So I think so. This information is enough. Applications of magnetic susceptibility measures. There are various applications of these measures. These measurements depend upon the fact that the constituent atoms, ions, or molecules of a sample are having unpaired electrons or not. The inorganic chemistry, the knowledge of number of unpaired electrons is useful in knowing the following facts, that is oxidation state, bond type, and the stereochemistry of the metal atom. So we shall discuss these three things one by one. The first one is oxidation state. From the experimental determination of number of unpaired electrons, it becomes possible to distinguish between different oxidation states provided that they have different number of such electrons. This decision has been found to be of great importance in elements of first transition series because their ions obey Hund's rule. For example, iron in plus 3 oxidation contains 5 electrons, while iron in plus 2 oxidation state contains only 4. This corresponds to a moment of 5.9 for iron in plus 3 oxidation state and 4.9 Bohr magneton when iron is in plus 2 oxidation state. So here we can see a comparison. So atom is iron. There are two possible complexes named A and B. For complex A, the value of magnetic susceptibility, that is shown in Bohr magneton, is 5.9, and number of unpaired electron in complex A are 5, and in complex A the oxidation state of iron is equal to plus 3. Now we shall talk about iron in plus 2 oxidation state, which is painted as red color. So we can see the value of Bohr, the value of magnetic susceptibility in Bohr magnetite is 4.9, and there are 4 number of unpaired electrons, and its oxidation state for iron is plus 2. So in short, we can say that Bohr magneton is a unit of magnetic moment, and magnetic moment is derived from magnetic susceptibility. Structure of nitroprusides. Formerly, it was believed that nitroprusside contains tri-positive iron coordinated to 5 cyanide groups and a neutral NO molecule in this complex, giving the valency of -2 for this complex sign. Thus, the nitroprusside should be paramagnetic due to D2sp3 hybridization around iron plus 3. But practically, when we measured magnetic moment of nitroprusside, the magnetic moment of nitroprusside was equal to 0. That was an indication towards diamagnetic behavior of the complex. Linus Pauling attempted to explain this by suggesting that odd number of electrons in NO is first transferred to iron plus 3 and the transfer of electron from NO to iron plus 3 converts iron plus 3 into iron plus 2 and NO ions, and then the later is coordinated to iron plus 2. So it means initially NO will completely transfer its electron to iron plus 3, and iron plus 3 will be converted into iron plus 2, and then NO will coordinate to iron plus 3. On this basis, not only the paramagnetism of the prusside was explained, but this justification also explained plus 2 oxidation state of this complex. Here is a geometrical representation of nitroprusside complex. So in this complex, you can see that the overall charge on this complex is -2, and there are 5 cyanide ligands which are coordinated to iron, and at the top you can see an NO ligand. So this is actually a NO ligand that first transfers its electron to iron plus 3 and converts this iron 3 into iron plus 2, and then it is coordinated to this central metal ion. So this justification by L. Pauling justified its diamagnetic behavior as well as plus 2 oxidation state of iron in this complex. So at the end of this lecture, I have some questions for you for your self-assessment. That is it possible to distinguish cobalt plus 2 from copper plus 1 by measuring magnetic susceptibility? What are the factors on which magnetic properties depend? Where Chi m is obtained from measured volume susceptibility. With this, I would like to say thanks to all of you for watching and listening this lecture. Inshallah, we'll meet you in the next lecture. Thank you so much. Stay safe, stay at home. Allah Hafiz.